Here's something strange about raising a child. There are 5 small things you could do with your kid today, and if you skip all 5, nothing happens. Your child won't notice. You won't notice. Tomorrow will look exactly like today. That's the problem. These 5 things don't pay you back today. They pay you back in a year, maybe 5, and that's why almost every parent skips them, without ever deciding to. Nothing beeps, nothing breaks, so we let it go. And then a year passes. Here's the part I want you to hold on to. Character isn't built in one big conversation. It isn't bought with the right school, or the right program, or the right list of activities. It's built in small, ordinary, repeatable moments that look like nothing while they're happening. Wise parents aren't stricter than you. They're not more patient than you. They just don't skip. So, in the next 10 minutes, I'll walk you through all 5. Every one of them is small, and every one has real research behind it. I'll show you that research honestly, including the parts most parenting videos get wrong. Let's start with the one your child will fight you on tonight. Habit 1. Responsibilities come before entertainment. Shoes away, then the tablet. Plate in the sink, then the show. Homework, then the game. It sounds almost too simple, but watch what happens in your house tonight, and you'll see how often the order gets flipped. Not because you decided to flip it, because you were tired, and flipping it was quieter. Now, you've probably heard of the marshmallow test. 1 marshmallow now, or 2 if you wait. And you've probably heard that the kids who waited turned out more successful. Here's what most parenting videos won't tell you. In 2018, researchers ran a much larger version of that study. They found that an extra minute of waiting at age 4 predicted only a small gain in academic skills at 15. And once they accounted for family background, early ability, and home environment, most of that gain shrank away. So your 4-year-old grabbing the treat is not a verdict on their future. Let that go. But there is a study that holds up. In Dunedin, New Zealand, researchers followed 1,000 children from birth to age 32. What they found was that childhood self-control predicted adult health, adult finances, even whether someone had a criminal record, and it held regardless of the child's IQ or family social class. Then comes the sentence that matters most to you as a parent. The people who found a way to improve their self-control as they grew up did better than their childhood scores predicted. Self-control isn't a trait your child either has or doesn't have. It's a muscle, and the order of your evening is how they train it. Here's how early this can start. One long-term study followed 84 children into their mid-20s. It found that taking part in household tasks at ages 3 and 4 was the strongest single predictor of how they were doing as young adults. Now, that's a small sample and a reanalysis, not a clean experiment, so hold it loosely. But there's one finding I can't stop thinking about. The kids who didn't start helping until 15 or 16 did worse than the ones who started early. They also did worse than the kids who never had chores at all. Starting late didn't feel like belonging to them. It felt like punishment. So tonight, pick one thing, just one, and say it as a sequence, not a threat. First shoes, then tablet. 2 words, first, then. The order is the lesson. Habit 2. Give your child something real to do for someone else. Not a chore chart, not a sticker, a real job, with a real result that someone else can see. Most of us skip this one for a simple reason. It's faster to do it ourselves. Your 3-year-old carrying a plate to the table takes 4 times as long, and there's a decent chance the plate doesn't make it. So we take the plate. We're helping. We're also quietly teaching them that helping is optional. Here's what the research says about what we're taking away. In a well-known study, toddlers under the age of 2 were given treats. Then they were asked to give some away, and they showed more happiness when they gave a treat to someone else than when they received a treat themselves. Even more striking, they were happiest when they gave away something that was actually theirs. That result was tested again recently with a much larger group of toddlers. Researchers added a new condition, where the child was told to give a treat to themselves. If the joy came from just following instructions, both would feel good. It didn't. The children only lit up when the giving went to someone else. And in studies across different cultures, the same thing showed up. Sharing and helping felt good on their own. The children's happiness didn't even change much depending on whether they got thanked. Read that again, because it changes something for you. Your child does not need a reward to want to help. The wanting is already in there. What they need is for the job to be real. This is why Maria Montessori drew a line between a toy kitchen and a real one. She argued that pretend tasks don't satisfy a child because the child sees no real result. In her approach, what looks like housework is actually the child working on their own development, and the way they learn is through movement. The point of washing the table was never the clean table. So this week, hand over one real job: feeding the pet, watering one plant, carrying the napkins, then do the hardest part. Let it be slow. Let it be imperfect. And don't redo it in front of them. Habit 3. Every day, leave a piece of time that nobody fills. Not you, not a screen, not a class. I want to be careful with how I say this, because if I say screen-free time, you'll hear a rule about screens. And that's not it. A screen-free hour where you sit down and run a craft project, then a worksheet, then a puzzle, is not what I'm describing. You just replaced one filler with a more expensive one. What your child needs isn't the absence of a screen. It's the absence of a plan. Now, screens do deserve a mention here because they are the fastest filler ever invented, and the guidance on them changed recently. In January 2026, the American Academy of Pediatrics released a new policy on children and digital media, replacing their earlier guidance. The shift is significant. They moved away from treating this as a question of how many hours, toward a bigger question about the whole digital environment your child lives inside. Their point is that most platforms aren't designed around your child's development. They're designed to keep people watching, and environments built that way tend to encourage long sessions, which then push out sleep, movement, and family time. They offer a framework for families, called the 5 C's: child, content, calm, crowding out, and communication. I want to sit on that fourth one, because it's the whole idea of this video in a single phrase. Crowding out. That's the real question, not, is this bad for him? But what is this standing in the place of? And once you ask it that way, you'll notice something uncomfortable. A packed schedule crowds out the exact same thing a tablet does. So what is it that keeps getting crowded out? Nothing. Literally nothing. Empty, unassigned, slightly boring time. There's a study where adults were given a genuinely boring task, copying numbers out of a phone book, and afterward they came up with more creative uses for a plain object than people who skipped the boring part. I want to be straight with you. Those were adults, not children. But the mechanism is the interesting part. When there's nothing coming in from outside, the mind turns inward and starts to wander. And the wandering is where the ideas come from. Researchers looking at children have made a related argument. That boredom is where a child builds their own internal drive, instead of waiting for the next thing to be handed to them. So here's the practical version. You're not banning anything. You're not scheduling anything either. You're just going to stop being the entertainment. When your child says, "I'm bored," don't solve it. Don't hand them a device, and don't hand them an activity either. Say, "Okay." Then go back to what you were doing. The first 10 minutes will be miserable, for both of you. Then something will start. Habit 4. Ask one question a day that points your child's attention at what went right. Something like, "What was the best part of your day?" Or, "Who was kind to you today?" This is the one parents skip most quietly because it doesn't feel like parenting. It feels like small talk. Here's why it isn't. Researchers worked with 221 students in early adolescence. 11 classes were randomly assigned to one of 3 groups. One group listed up to 5 things they were grateful for every day for 2 weeks. The other groups listed daily hassles or did nothing different. The students who counted what they were grateful for reported more gratitude, more optimism, and higher satisfaction with life. They also reported less negative feeling, and the strongest finding of all was about how satisfied they felt with school, which held up 3 weeks later. 2 honest notes before you take that anywhere. First, those were early teenagers, not preschoolers, so I'm not going to promise you the same numbers for a 4-year-old. What I will say is that this is a habit, and habits are easier to build before a child can roll their eyes at them. Second, some researchers have pointed out that a lot of gratitude studies compared against groups who were listing complaints, which makes the gratitude side look stronger than it might be. So, I'm not going to tell you this makes children happy. I'll tell you it's linked to optimism and satisfaction, which is what the evidence actually supports. Now here's the part that no study needs to prove to you. A child's attention goes where you point it. All day long, their brain is very good at flagging what went wrong. The scraped knee, the friend who wouldn't share. Nobody has to train that. What has to be trained is the other direction. And you don't train it with a lecture. You train it with a question, at the same time every day, until they start answering before you ask. One more thing. Answer it yourself first. Out loud. Say what the best part of your day was, even on the days when you have to search for it. Especially then. Habit 5. Let your child do hard things, and be careful about what you say when they do. This one has the strongest evidence in the whole video, and it comes down to a single sentence you say out loud. Researchers went into family homes and recorded how parents naturally praised their children when the children were 1, 2, and 3 years old. Not in a lab, in the kitchen. Then they came back years later. What they found was that the parents who praised effort and strategy, things like, "You worked really hard on that," had children who, at 7 and 8 years old, believed that ability can be developed. Those children were more willing to take on a challenge. They were more likely to explain success by pointing at effort, and they came up with their own ways to improve when something went wrong. Then, the same children were followed further, and the researchers found that the praise those toddlers heard predicted their reading and math scores in 4th grade, 7 years later. Not directly. It worked through the beliefs those children had formed about themselves. So think about what actually happened there. A parent, standing in a kitchen, saying one kind of sentence instead of another, to a 2-year-old who couldn't even explain what they were doing. And 7 years later, you can still see it. The difference is small on the surface. You're good at this versus you kept trying different ways. Both are loving. Both are meant kindly. One tells your child what they are, the other tells them what they did. And what they did is the only part they can repeat tomorrow. So here's the practice. Let them stay in the hard thing a little longer than is comfortable for you. The zipper, the shoelace, the tower that keeps falling. Don't rescue at the first sound of frustration. And when they get there, don't say, "You're so smart." Say, "You tried it 3 different ways." Then watch what happens the next time something is hard. So those are the 5. Responsibilities before entertainment. A real job that helps someone else. 1 piece of time every day that nobody fills. 1 question a day pointed at what went right. And staying in hard things, with your words landing on effort instead of talent. Look at that list again and notice something. Not one of them requires money. Not one requires a program or a school or an expert. Every single one of them fits inside a normal Tuesday evening. That's exactly why they get skipped. If any of these cost $400, you'd put it in the calendar and you'd never miss it. Because it's free and quiet. It competes with being tired. And most nights, tired wins. So I'm not going to ask you to do all 5. That's how people quit by Thursday. Pick one. The one that made you a little uncomfortable while you were listening. That's usually the one your family is actually missing. Do that one for a week. Not perfectly, just most days. Because here's the thing about all of this. You will not be able to tell it's working. There is no week where you look at your child and see the difference. The change is too slow to watch. The same way you can't watch them grow taller. You'll only see it looking backward, and one day you'll notice they put their plate in the sink without being asked. Or they stayed with something hard for 10 minutes instead of 2. And you won't be able to point to the day that changed. There wasn't one. There were 400 small ones. Tell me in the comments which of the 5 you're starting with. I read them, and honestly, seeing what other parents pick helps more of us start. If this helped you see your little one a little differently today, hit subscribe. We explain things your baby is doing.